think also, again, for the 10th time this tournament, Undying Viper just seems like a good combination of heroes. It's a mech carrier, it's an early pressure team fighter, you go take towers.
We haven't seen much Viper. I think he was like really popular the first day, and then
yes,
none.
I think he did fine.
Yeah,
honestly,
I agree.
Secret were good with it. I can't remember if we saw Cloud9. Cloud9 lost with it today against Complexity, actually. So there was at least one pick of it today.
As far as the rest of CDEC's lineup goes, like they can go the typical like Tusk Undying and try and take down all your towers early, but at the same time, Evil Geniuses, as we saw, I think in the second game against MVP Hot 6, they just play keep away, outfarm your entire map, and then just crush you with like a 10, 15,000 gold lead. So I'm hesitant to say that it will be super successful. I think they have to commit very heavily to it, like sort of how Newbie does it, with a Dragon Knight, someone that can force towers down immediately.
Is this the first second phase Gyro pick we've had this tournament? It feels like it's very rare.
I was pretty surprised CDEC didn't go for it again, and then when they didn't, I'm like, maybe last game kind of got to him, and they're like, well, we'll pass over it, but maybe it's too tempting now. It's still out there on the field.
Yeah, it is surprising that it went through all the way. I mean, CDEC also spent a lot of time during that ban phase trying to decide what else he wanted to ban. The Brood was there.
The Brood, so that does leave the Dazzle. They want to pick it up here, or an Aoi hero. Do you consider going more split push heavy if you know that CDEC already you're going to be pretty team fight, push down your lanes, be a demolition squad? Do you try to split them apart?
Generally, I think that's the solution for EG, yeah.
I think a pick they could consider here would be Lycan, and then they probably shouldn't pick it right now, but they could save it for 5th, and then start looking for the supports and consider putting the co-op on Universe this game in the offlane, just because Lycan is a great hero for Fear. It's a hero that pushes so fast that the timing windows CDEC have to start pressuring towers are really small. In addition to that, when he is in wolf form, he's actually as fast as Tusk, as the only hero in the game. I think they have the same move speed. It's like 650.
The problem with that is that we said that Tusk Undying is going to be putting a lot of pressure on there, and if they ban out a lot of the good defensive lane supports like Earthshaker, then Lycan's going to have a very, very difficult time.
The alternative is to okay, they're going to pick a defensive support, because the alternative would be to pick supports that could actually fight in that lane. Potentially, but I could see that being too difficult.
I mean, with the Dazzle, though, I think now it's possible.
They could, because you can heal the wolves. It's a decent physical damage bomb, if you will.
Now, for CDEC, what are they looking for here to round things out?
Shadow Shaman. Totally go all in with the bush.
We've seen
Shadow Shaman fun.
Yeah, we've seen it picked up a couple times for that purpose. Not always to great success.
Disruptor is actually banned first phase by EG a few times.
Oh yeah,
against Empire and
I think against Empire, and it was when they first picked Queen of Pain. So I'm not sure if they didn't expect CDEC to pick it, and I'm not exactly sure in the circumstances that CDEC want this hero. Sometimes it's seen as a counter to Shallow Grave. You just understrike the target, and then once it gets really, really low in grade, you just glimpse it back for easy finisher. But that's way easier said than done.
You know what's a great counter to Shallow Grave that we saw today, really successfully, was the Silencer of Newbie. That was really cool to see how they... That seemed like, to me, in that game, it seemed like it was specifically tailored to counter the Dazzle of Vici Gaming. They engage with Dragon Knight, it starts the fight off, they go on the target, and they global.
And
okay.
look,
PPD, I
don't think they're going to pick it if there's no Tusk.
Well, he says he doesn't pick
Never
stuff
mind.
like that twice, and then he picks.
Well,
no Tusk necessary.
It's,
A la carte
yeah.
tech.
It destroys the Tombstone with landmines. It is pretty fast at pushing, and more than anything, it might make CDEC think twice about pushing towers. Because if he puts mines in odd spots and just generally just slows them down, if nothing else, if they have to advance slowly into the tower pushes, could buy enough time for the last hero.
I mean, how does it really tie in?
Techies, though. I don't think it's an off lane for Universe.
So how does it tie in with the rest of the lineup here for EG? Or is there some way to tie it all together with the 5th pick?
It's more just delay CDEC because they're going to be hesitant to walk around your side of the map, and that's really what you don't want them to do. You don't want them to take down your safe lane T1 and then just invade your jungle. And the longer that you can delay them, the better it's going to be for Shadowfiend and the co-op, and the smaller window they're going to have to push your high ground and take Roche. So, I mean, they seem decently prepared for it last game, though. And this was with the Tusk, so I'm very surprised to see them go for it again.
It seems more like a... it seems like a mental play, honestly. Like they're just...
Toss suicide, yeah, that's a real threat. Banning out the tiny.
And what else could they combo it with? Venge.
Magnus, Pudge.
Nice.
What else have we seen?
Ben swap in the
Triple
mine.
force staffs.
Well, definitely looks like EG has something.
And if you saw the camera shot a moment ago of aggressive,
Yeah.
it seemed like the techies pick, as far as frustrating the opponent, definitely worked. Like he looked like.
It looked like he like smelled a fart. He's just like, oh, God, not again.
It seemed like they had a little bit of a heated debate about, okay, it could just be, all right, we did well last game, let's do the same thing again, this is no problem, this is what we're going to do. But from body language, maybe he didn't seem like, yay, they picked techies. That's what we wanted to bait them into with our draft.
That's why we got Tusk.
It's true. And generally, it doesn't sound like anyone's really ever going to be happy about playing against techies, even if you know you can win. DK going to round it up for CDEC. And EG.
This is a hero they can end the game with early, though.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
it's very risky, I would say, just because you're dealing with the Shadow Fiend and Quap, both of I think which are pretty good at defending as far as cores go, and Techies, which is, it's a little bit similar to the Vici newbie game that we saw earlier. It's like, okay, Sankey on one side to try and defend, and Dragonite to try and limit that window and just push high ground if you make one simple mistake.
It's a bad lane matchup, too, for Shiki.
Yeah,
playing
it
against
really
Quap or
is.
Shadow Fiend, who should both,
Or
on
it's ver-
paper, beat Dragon Knight, but Shiki did really well in a match earlier this tournament in a Dragon Knight versus Quap matchup, I think it was. He actually surprised me a lot there. So maybe he's just very comfortable with the matchup. We'll see.
Yeah, and Sand King rounding things out for EG. Dakota, how do you feel about this matchup this time around? Definitely has a few changes.
I'm very intrigued about this, like, a la carte techies without the Tusk and how they're going to try to find a way to utilize. He normally gets a lot out of that first Snowball Suicide to give him that boost into the quick Soul Ring. If he's paired up into a lane, that's going to be very aggressive with this Undying. I don't know. I'm curious. And I'm also very curious to see how CDEC deal with the techies. Like, this time it's not
Right.
going to happen. Are we going to get out to the lanes fast, scout things out? This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of a challenge for CDEC. We'll see how they've prepared in Game 2, trying to secure that first place seed against EG.
All right, welcome everybody in from the main stream. We had a short little pause. We were having actually a interesting conversation, Blitz and I, about Evil Geniuses, and I mentioned that EG, I feel like one of their strongest aspects when it comes to them as a team is their initiation, and that kind of makes sense, seeing as they always, Sumail Storm Spirit is kind of one of the most signature heroes, and Storm is one of the best initiators out there, but I feel like that's what Evil Geniuses, despite the fact that CDEC do have all this great five-man team fight, EG will always get the jump.
Yeah, it's just such a big part of their strategy of being able to start the fights and then look at the landscape and figure things out. Like I feel like that's pretty much what EG do. They get into a fight and then they can back each other up. They get to kind of make their own plans within the fight and say, we have to do this, this, and this to win the fight. And you can see that in the way they re-engage and disengage. And
Yeah, they make that first poke and then exploit the openings from there.
yeah, and it always seems like, oh, Sumail or Fear lived with 10 HP because X player backed him up, and that was such a good team fight. Like, we see that happen so frequently. But speaking of Sumail, for me personally, player of the tournament, like the amount of games that he single-handedly won his team, like I've counted about 4 or 5 games where he just destroys the enemy mid laner, and at this level of competition, for him to be able to solo kill people, like consistently,
Yeah.
is just kind of absurd.
It is pretty insane how that, like, we really can't keep our eyes off of Sumail in this middle lane. Like, he's going up against a Dragonite Disruptor, and yet there's still like a 50% chance that he's going to walk away with the first blood. There is a small
50% chance. Are you really, Kev? We going with 50%?
He either gets the kill or he doesn't.
I don't think that's how it works, but
Percentages. Hey.
all right. So, but my
Oh,
main thing,
career. Oh, PPD.
that was close.
He was just like half a foot away from being able to get that next one.
I guess my main thing though is a mid player. If you're able to solo kill the enemy's mid, it means so much for the rest of your team. It bolsters your confidence. It allows you to be the most farmed hero in the game. It just does. As a result of that, and we saw that in the last game alone. So they have to be careful. And Universe at top is actually just getting into a man fight, and Aggressive can't really fight him because he's opted to go for the flat cannon first. And now with PPD up here, he's actually doing so well in this lane right now.
I kind of forget about Caustic Finale and the change that occurred, but boy, that ability's so strong in 1 versus 1 scenarios, or maybe just like 2 versus 2. You know what it was? I was playing in Dirt Mall, and it came down to between me and Nigma, and we had to play 1v1 mids, and Slax just chose the heroes kind of at random. And I had to play a Sand King versus Sand King matchup.
Man, that was the
Caustic finale.
Really relevant to this.
It was. Super
the Dirt Mall finals. TI5. I can totally see why you brought that up. Sometimes Wagga or I may bring up our 7K games, but that was
Whatever,
really
man.
that was the example that really helped me understand this matchup. Thank you,
Anyway,
capitalists.
the point is that Sand King, no matter how relevant he may be in the meta, we don't really talk about Caustic Finale at all. All right, and it requires a sort of stupid like 1v1 mid for you to actually go back and go, well, Caustic Finale, that's an ability, right?
Yeah. I'm just pulling.
I
your
know
leg.
you're just razzing me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get you
okay.
frustrated. When
He's
Cap
trying to
gets,
figure out if I'm Mafia right now.
when Cap gets frustrated, he just gets progressively angrier. So, all right. So this bottom lane, though, Undying plus Tusk is so strong. Like, it's really difficult to play against, but because AUI's here, they have no idea where the mines are, and I just feel like CDEC are just so afraid of him. Like last game, we saw that alone. They had 2 BKBs, a Roshan advantage. They had the Aegis, and they still weren't willing to push.
Ooh, cute. Last couple of right clicks, they need another. Universe now going to have to turn
how are they
onto
even gonna fight
aggressive.
this?
They've got Sand King and Dazzle. That seems to be just enough sustain for them to be able to survive through those rocket barrages. This dual lane is doing, and dual lanes on both sides are doing incredibly well, I would say, for EG, despite their unique flavor. Techies Queen of Pain dual lane is really weird,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Part of the reason why you pick the Gyrocopter is that he can be self-sufficient. So you can pick greedy supports with him. Is how you should look at it. And Disruptor
Sure.
is kind of a greedy support. It is one of the better ones at zoning. It's not like a Dazzle where you're going to struggle a little bit, but because this dual lane is so strong, this Dazzle plus Sand King, it's actually forcing the Disruptor to stay mid. And what it's doing is it's allowing Sumail to snowball in this mid lane. And because Fear is so good at catching up into the game, they're actually not even concerned about this bottom lane really. And Fear's got 20 CS. It's not even like that dual offlane is doing a really good job. And as a result of this, Sumail is taking such a big snowball lead mid. Like he already has 26, 27 CS compared just to the 14 of the Dragon Knight. He's almost doubling his CS. He has complete rune control right now, and this is what I'm talking about. When you play with a player like this that almost consistently wins his lane and allows you to snowball off of this, it means you don't have to worry about his lane, and the other team is just constantly trying to figure out a way to beat him.
Yeah, I could see Wepis is keeping a firm camera on Sumail just because you never know if he's going to be able to secure that first blood. And he's getting to the point where those level 3 raids are pretty dangerous. But it's bottom lane that looks like we're going to have our kill. There it is. Suicide finally comes out. AUI secures the first blood. Dangerous situation. The Undying versus Techies is just frustrating through and through. Just because Techies offers such a significant team fight advantage early on, but it's the mines versus that one. The snowball, it didn't catch him. Sumail was just so far back.
I think part of the problem with playing against a Techies or a Bounty Hunter and why it's frustrating is because it completely changes the way that you play Dota.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just play normal Dota and expect normal things to happen. Like, weird stuff happens when a Techies or a Bounty Hunter is in the game. You constantly have to keep ward vision up. You're afraid to take fights because you don't really know. You fear the unknown. You're just like, are people going to be behind?
Yeah.
Am I walking into a trap here?
I told you about that conversation I had in the lunchroom, right? I can't remember. I think it's with FNG, but I can't actually remember who it was specifically. But it was like, why is Bounty Hunter picked up? You look at all the other heroes that are picked up in the first 1-2. They're all just genuinely